Well, you're right, Ray. A couple of days ago, I saw a news conference, or actually a meeting in Congress, which is now up on YouTube, by the way, if anybody wanted to see it. But Dennis Kucinich was questioning a Fed official, and he got this man to admit that the Federal Reserve is actually paying banks not to loan money. In other words, all this money that the banks have been given by the federal government, it's bailout money or stimulus money, whatever, the Federal Reserve is actually paying them money to keep it and not disperse it in the economy in the form of credit. He admitted that. So, you know, there is something really wrong out there with this economy right now, and our efforts to help it recover.
Now, Darrell, can I ask you, what do you think is behind that motivation?
You know, I hate to get into sinister motivations because I don't know if they're true or not, but I can't think of any good motive why the Federal Reserve would not want the economy to recover. But I know that I personally, as an attorney, have referred 3 people recently in the last few weeks to banks who appeared on paper to be very well qualified for refinancing of their homes or something of that problem, which would have solved their debt problems, and they were turned down. And my thought was, if you will not approve this person, who would you approve? But one would almost think that the Federal Reserve does not want the economy to recover, not yet anyway. I don't know if that's true or not, obviously, but I don't understand the motivation of paying them the money that they would have gained in interest by loaning the money to qualified borrowers not to loan it. That speaks of a sinister motivation to me, but I'm not sure of that.
Right. Yeah, well, you know, the bottom line is whatever their motivation is, they should not have the ability to have other motivations other than the productive health of the vibrant citizenry of the country. And unfortunately, they do have that power.
Well, that's true, and the best thing that can happen to the Federal Reserve would be for it to cease to exist immediately, and its assets liquidated and returned to the U.S. Treasury for use in relieving the American people of 95 years of fraud and theft that organization has inflicted upon us. That's what would happen in an ideal world.
Well, I sure hope. What do you think is going to happen? We've got progress in that direction. When you look at Ron Paul's bill in the House, 1207, you look at the Senate equivalent bill. The number's slipping my mind right now. It's got about 20 co-sponsors now in the Senate. But yet these things still aren't seeing the light of day. You've got Barney Frank, chairman of the Financial Subcommittee, who's just not really that interested because the Democratic leadership of the House and Barack Obama do not want to see this thing go forward. We even have the vice chairman of the Federal Reserve coming down to talk to Congress, telling Congress that the Federal Reserve needs to have an air of independence, and if it doesn't, it would ever be controlled by Congress, that the credit rating of the United States would be dropped, that it would not be able to loan the United States any more money. That is basically an open threat to crash the economy of the United States.
Right, just as it crashed, well, not the Federal Reserve, but the central bankers of the world acting in the cartel, which they are. It crashed the Japanese economy in 1988, and it still hasn't recovered. It crashed the Indonesian economy 5 or 6 years ago. It still hasn't totally recovered. They destroyed the Icelandic economy 5 or 6 months ago, which only when Iceland went back to them on their knees did they allow it to recover. So yes, they do have that capacity. And there would be a very severe penalty to be paid by the United States were we to to try to act against the Federal Reserve. Of that, I have no doubt. We would just have to get through it and act as people jointly, and we have to decide if we would rather be free, even if it means that for a few short years we might be poor or have a different standard of living, or do we want to continue essentially as servants of this group of international bankers? They know they have the capacity to crash the world's economies, and that, there's a not so subtle threat. You're right. I saw the same thing.
Darrell?
Oh, there she is.
Hey.
Hi, Amanda.
Hey, guys. To speak to that just briefly, I think, the question is just exactly like you said. Do you want to, and the problem is the same thing. It's the question. The problem is the question, do you want to remain in debt and live off of credit, albeit a little nicer now, but not so nice later? Or do you want to buckle up, draw in the reins, and live within your means for a few years to make this go away permanently, and to bring us back to the Constitution and to what we need, which is a hard asset-based currency? If the states would just get on board with this, these states, I think 37, 38 that are promoting sovereignty, if they just get on board with the sound money bills that have been promoted by Dr. Edwin Vieira, and they start ushering in sound money, and we have hard asset-based currency running parallel to the Federal Reserve or the fiat notes, the problem will solve itself. We can transfer our money from the fiat to the hard asset-based currency in nothing, with little or no problems. So that's something that the states need to work out. Everybody needs to be looking at that.
The conference that I'm at this weekend, there are several state legislators in attendance, and those are some of the things that we're talking about trying to get the states to do. But there are some serious problems with what you're talking about. Don't get me wrong, I'm all in favor of it, but it would not be without consequences for the United States. The first thing that would happen if we did that sort of thing is that the central banking establishment of the world would withdraw us from the world's banking system, which would immediately take away the reserve status of the dollar. And for the United States, right now in the immediate, in essence, that means instant poverty, instant crash in our standard of living, because we are an import-dependent country. 70% of our energy is imported from foreign countries. It would take many years to correct that problem. Imagine what would happen if we could not get energy to run our cars, to run our machines, to operate our aircraft and so forth, to fuel our military. These are
so that would happen. Excuse me. So that would happen if we are
in the short run. In the short run, but in the long run, the nations of the world would see once again the United States as that shining light on the hill. They would see how our prosperity quickly recovered, and they would come back to us as they did before, and we would return to the status that this type of this system of government deserves. But it would not be without short-term consequences.